Welcome everyone to Email with Confidence, the first workshop in our Communicate with Confidence series. This is brought to you by the Academic Success Center. Let's begin off in a good way. RRC Polytech campuses are located on the lands of Anishinaabe, Innuit, Anishinaabe, Dakota, and Dene, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Today, I will be your workshop facilitator. My name is Jackie Jordan. My pronouns are she, her. And at any time, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out or email me at jjordan@rrc.ca. I'm an academic support specialist at the Academic Success Center, and I'm there to help you develop the skills you need in academic writing and English language to meet your program needs. Okay, so today let's jump into our topic. In a professional environment, we tend to communicate through written forms like messaging, emails, reports, and other kinds of written communications. These written forms, through them, we tend to lose the human side of language, so the ability to read body language and tone. This increasing use of written communication can lead to confusing, inappropriate, or insensitive communication. So therefore, a key professional skill is developing your written communication ability. So today's goal is to have you at the end of this workshop understand email expectations based on the audience and how to deliver a message that's clear and appropriate. So just a quick run through of the agenda for today. We're going to talk about professional versus casual emails. How do you know whether you should send a professional email or not? Structure of a professional email and writing with a formal tone. Okay, so let's quickly talk about professional emails versus casual emails. And we've got this really handy table that shows you, in essence, what is the difference. And really, they're complete opposites. So a professional email has a specific tone. Often it's formal in tone. It is sent to people you don't know well or people in a position of authority. It has a defined structure with specific components, is grammatically correct with complete sentence structure, and avoids slang, abbreviations, or other casual language. For casual emails, it's the opposite. It has an informal tone, is sent to people you may know well, has no defined structure, and may have grammatical errors or incomplete or slang language. So now let's look at some examples. How do you know if you should send a professional email? Well, let's look. So here we have 6 different situations, and we're going to look at the situation and get a sense of, would it be a professional or casual email that you would be required to use in that situation? So number A, you need to find out from your program manager if you're eligible for your co-op. Situation B, you need to confirm your upcoming team meeting with your classmates. Number C, you need to set up a lunch date with a friend. Situation D, you've been assigned an academic coach and need to reach out to set up your first meeting. Situation E, you need to request an extension from your instructor on an upcoming assignment. And number F, you need to find out from your new coworker where to park tomorrow. So, how do we know if some of these should be a professional or casual email? Well, we've provided these 4 points that you can use to evaluate whether it should be a professional or casual email. So if there's a difference in power, if there's a specific situation or context, what is the purpose of the email, and how well do you know the person that you're going to be emailing? So we're going to walk through this and look at those 6 different situations and rank them according to which ones would be professional, moving down to casual. So I'm going to give you a minute here to think through and maybe jot down on your own piece of paper from A to F, which one would you rank as the most a situation that requires a professional email, and then kind of moving through the different options until you get to casual. So kind of a range, starting with the one that's very clearly professional and moving down to the ones that is very clearly a casual email. Great, so I'll just give some time for you to think and consider about that. Okay, well, now let's look at each situation and decide. So this is our range, right? We've got professional to casual, and then for each one, we're going to think about difference in power, situation, purpose for email, and how well you know the recipient of the email. So for the first one, we would say that the very clearly professional email would be when you need to find out from your program manager if you're eligible for your co-op. There's a real distinct or clear difference in power between you and the co-op manager. The context is career related. The purpose is to find out if you're eligible for a co-op, and you likely don't know the manager well. So in this instance, there is someone of authority that you're going to be connecting with. It is a formal context, right? Your career, your industry related. The purpose is to find out about whether you are eligible for co-op. Again, that is something that is quite a defined, specific context, and you don't know the person very well. So these are all indicating that this should be a professional email. Okay, so let's see what else do we have that would be a professional email, and that is situation E. You need to request an extension from your instructor on an upcoming assignment. Again, there's a clear difference in power. Your instructor is the evaluator of your work. The context is program related. So again, a formal situation, it's related to you completing your program. The purpose is for an extension request, so you are asking for something, and you likely don't know the instructor well. So these are all indicators that would make that this a more likely situation for a professional email. Okay, number D. This is the third one that we would rank as being still requiring a professional email. The difference in power is a little bit less clear in this situation. You've been assigned an academic coach and need to reach out to set up your first meeting. So your academic coach is not someone that's evaluating you. They're there to support you in your program. So there's not a very clear power distinction. The context, though, is still program and school related. So that is still a formal context. And the purpose is to organize a meeting, and you likely don't know the coach well. So we've ranked it in the middle here because it's maybe not as formal an email or professional email as your one to your co-op manager, but it still should be respectful and professional. Okay, next we've got situation F. You need to find out from your new co-worker where to park tomorrow. So in this instance, there's not a difference in power. You are peers, you co-workers. The context is work related. Again, this means it's a professional environment. The purpose is to get information, and it is very likely that you don't know the co-worker well because this person is new, right? They are a new co-worker. So we'd say that because it's still a professional setting, that there should be somewhat of a professional email, but we're moving towards more of the casual form, be that in tone. And we'll get into a little bit more discussion about tone later on in our presentation. Okay, and then we've got situation B. Next, you need to confirm your upcoming team meeting with your classmates. This is you talking to your peers, the same power level. The context is coursework related. You want to have a confirmation of meeting time, and you may or may not know your classmates well. And then lastly, situation C, which is very clearly a casual email. You need to set up a lunch date with a friend. There's no difference in power. The context is social and not work related. The purpose is to set up a time to have lunch, and you likely know your friend well. Great, thanks for joining us in that. So now let's look at the components of a professional email. So if you remember back to what's the difference between a professional and casual email, we had highlighted that there was a defined structure in a professional email. So now we're going to look at what is that structure. So we here have components of a professional email. We have a subject line, we have an opening greeting, we have an introduction, body, conclusion, and a closing greeting, followed lastly by a signature. So now let's walk through this in an example. And we're going to ask you to identify each aspect or component of the email. So here we have an email. The subject is absence in history of magic class on June 7th. Dear Professor Binns, I hope this email finds you well. I am writing to explain my absence in our upcoming history of magic class next Monday, June 7th. I have a medical appointment and will be unable to attend class. I will be sure to watch the recording of the class as soon as it becomes available, as well as check all materials posted on Learn. Please let me know if you require any other information from me. Thank you. Hermione Granger, Year 7 student, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. I hope you enjoyed that Harry Potter reference. So let's look at where is the subject line. Well, very clearly, it's the first line of our email in a different section. It's the first part that the recipient gets about what this email is going to be about. You really want to make sure your subject line clearly states the purpose of your email. And then we have in green your opening greeting, right? Dear Professor Binns, when this is a professional email, you want to make sure that you're using the right salutations and acknowledging your instructor in the way that they would like to be spoken to. You can always refer to the course outline. Usually your instructor's name is given there, and that's how you can get an example of how they would like to be referred to. Then we have introduction. In the introduction, we get to the point of this email. We jump in, expand on that subject line from our email, and put a little bit more detail in the introduction. Next, we have a body which expands or explains further the point that we raised in the introduction. And then we have a conclusion. This is followed by a closing greeting and a signature, who we are. Very clearly identifying that we are a student and we're in this type of school. So how can you apply this in your program? Well, Red River College has a way for you to, guidelines on how to create a professional signature. So you can create a college signature for all your academic emails. The instructions can be found through this link on the website or the web page. And you want to really make sure to include the following in your RRC student signature: your full name, your title such as student, the program that you're in, the college, and your student email address. We have this great example over here. You can also feel free to include your pronouns and any other additional information that you find relevant. So one thing to consider about your email is creating an email that's designed for accessibility. So there's some general guidelines, and again, you can access more information about this through the link shared in the PowerPoint. But these are the 3 top guidelines I wanted to highlight that can easily be applied in your own email. And that is using a sans serif font style, and that makes it easier for readers to read what it is that you are writing, using font size of 12 point or greater, and then using any alternative text for images. And I would also say, really think through if an image is even necessary for your email. If it is, then you try and use alternative text for those images. Okay, now let's talk about tone, which is the other really critical aspect of professional emails. So we spoke about a defined structure. Then the other critical aspect is tone. So here we have this image, and how could you apply this to writing? Well, we have an image of someone dressed in different styles according to different situations, or different environments. We have streetwear, we have casual, business casual, smart casual, business informal, and black tie. These all give you a sense of tone. What is the general character or attitude or expectations for a certain situation? You want to dress or write accordingly for those expectations. So let's look at that in email writing. So in writing, tone refers to the writer's attitude toward what they're writing. Professional emails have a formal tone. So a formal tone focuses on being thorough, concise, straightforward, yet respectful. And that's something to really highlight, because sometimes we could focus on being direct and then lose some of that respect. So keep in mind, we always want to have a respectful tone throughout our professional emails. So in formal emails, you should avoid abbreviations, slang terms, excessive punctuation, emoticons, and capitalizing entire words. In formal emails, you should include, as we spoke about, a defined structure, correct spelling, punctuation, and capitalization, and correct grammar and sentence structure. So now let's look at an example. So here's an email. Hey, John, great talking with you earlier on the phone. I'm sending you the contract we chatted about. If you're good with everything, sign it and send it back to me. It would be cool if you could have that done ASAP. If you have any questions, shoot me a message. See you next time, Mariam. Okay, so does this have a formal or informal tone? It seems quite clear that this is an email with an informal tone. How are we identifying that? Well, we're using slang and abbreviations, and there's not as much of a respectful tone as we would like. Okay, so now let's think of how we could rewrite this email. We have these options of some replacement terms and punctuation that you could use to revise this email so that it would be in a formal tone. So let's look at what that would sound like. Dear John, comma, it was nice to connect with you earlier on the phone, period. Please find attached the contract we discussed. Once you're comfortable with the terms, please sign it and send it back to me. I would appreciate if you could have that done as soon as possible. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. Yours sincerely, Mariam. Do you notice the difference in tone? I would hope so. Definitely we're using clearer punctuation. We're using full terms and sentences, and the grammar is correct. So Now let's go to the last part of today's presentation. And we've spoken about professional versus casual emails. But let's also talk about when is it not appropriate or when is it not best to use an email? So over here, we have this image that gives you an idea of when to prioritize an email versus in-person communication. So we have efficiency. As you can see, we have our different communication options: in-person, video call, phone, email, text or chat. And as you go down in the list, it's more efficient to communicate using the different forms as you move down. So writing a text is far quicker than perhaps talking to someone in person or doing a video call, depending on the situation. In the opposite direction, we have personalization. So talking to someone in person or doing a video call is a lot more personable than sending a text or an email. And there might be different reasons or times when you should use one over the other. So I've got this 3 points listed. Number one of when you should not use an email is when the information is complicated and you have started to notice a back and forth chain between you and the recipient of that email. Then that calls for you to perhaps have a different form of communication, most likely perhaps a phone or video call, or if possible, an in-person communication to clarify any misunderstandings and to simplify or discuss something that's quite complicated. Number two, you want to avoid email when the message is sensitive. So if it's something personal or emotional or something that is directly relevant to an individual but needs to be spoken about with some tact, then this is when you would prefer an in-person kind of form of communication. So be it phone, video call, or face-to-face communication. And then third, another time when you would want to avoid email is when the message is time sensitive. So emails might not reach the person or the person might not review their emails at the required time. They might only review it the next day or later that week. So if something is time sensitive, it's best to rather phone or meet or talk to the person face to face. Great, so that's just a handy tip list if you ever run into that situation of trying to figure out when is it not a good time to use an email. So in summary, in today's workshop, we spoke about all the things to consider when writing an email and how to create a professional email. So before sending an email, you want to consider difference in power, situational context, purposeful email, and how well you know the recipient in order to decide if it should be a professional or casual communication. College is a professional environment, so any emails that you send should be professional, and you should create a college email signature when you get a chance. When writing a professional email, you want to focus on a defined structure and using a formal tone. Great. So today's presentation was brought to you by the Academic Success Center. This is just one in our upcoming Communicate with Confidence workshop series. Next Tuesday, we'll be delivering Listen with Confidence. It's the same WebEx link for all our workshops. The Academic Success Center is there to support you throughout your program. If you want to learn more about the different kinds of supports, please go to our webpage at rrc.ca/ASC. Again, if you would like to contact me directly, please feel free to do so. My email is jjordan@rrc.ca. Great. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.